All right. Clap once if you can hear my voice. Clap twice if you can hear my voice. All right, awesome. I've got 8 hours on this YouTube live stream, and I'm going to use every minute of it. So how'd this warm-up go? Yay, nay, okay, where are we at? So mostly no. Mostly a lot of no's, okay. Well, let's work to fix that. So let's write it. Let's write one together. Should we write iteratively first and then do recursive, or should we just dive right in? Dive in? All right, I'm getting a pretty unanimous dive. So let's do it. All right, so we know how we're going to start, right? We're going to do array.prototype.myMap. And that's going to be a function. I'm going to move this around. Make it bigger? Okay. Davey asks if I can make it bigger. Excellent question. I definitely can. Can you see that? All right. So, oh my goodness. So we know we're writing a function. So the first thing we might want to start, oh my God. The first thing we might want to think about are what kind of arguments are we going to need to pass this thing? We know for sure that our user is going to pass in what? A callback. Yeah. Okay. And then now things start to like get things all of a sudden just got complicated, right? We're like, what do we need to do? Well, that's an excellent question. What are some of our possibilities? Trey? Trey says we need a base case. Okay, I can get behind that. Sounds like a good way to start. What do you think a good base case might be?
If the length of the array is 0.
If the length of the array is 0. Okay, so that's a definite possibility one. I'm thinking if we want to make our array length of 0, we might be inclined to mutate it a bit, right? We might be either doing a lot of slicing, which is like a linear operation, or we might be doing a lot of popping or shifting, which is also going to not leave us with the same array that we started with.
If array.length
okay. Okay, that sounds pretty good. So what Nikki said is we're going to say this dot length, and we can compare it with this output length, because we know that every time we call map, we always get back an array, a new array of the same length. So I think that's a pretty fair way to start. So let's try that. So we could say something like if this dot length equals to output dot length, and then what would we want to return? She says we should return output. So we're calling something called output. There is no output that exists at the moment. So if this seems like something we're going to want to return at the end, we might as well start passing it down so that all calls will have access to this output. So we can start building it. So that seems like a cool idea. Let's do it. Output, if I can spell. And we're going to set that to an empty array. I'm just going to keep moving this over. Okay, so that seems like a good step. Eric.
Just to make sure, is that the same as, I guess, making a variable for an empty array? Like let output equal empty array?
Inside? That's a great question. So Eric says, hey, is this the same as creating a let output variable inside of our function? And so the answer to that is not really, because if we do it inside of our function, every time this function calls, we're going to declare that output variable as an empty array. But we might not always want that output variable to be brand new and empty. We want to start, since our base case is dependent on our output becoming the same length, we're going to need to keep track of that output and keep passing it into each call. So that's why we're doing that. We're setting a default thing because we know on the first call when our user starts with my map, since they don't know that we wrote it this way, they're not going to pass us an array. They're just going to pass us the callback. Okay, awesome. So let's think about what comes next when we're writing a map. What's the next thing what's map known for? What's it do? It returns an array, and what makes that array special? Yeah, awesome. Can you say that louder, Crispina? Awesome. So Crispina says it's going to return an array where every element in that new array has been invoked with the callback function, right? Or passed into the callback function and push the result into the new array. Exactly. So, all right. So we know we're going to need to do that. So, we know we're going to be pushing it into our output because that's what we're returning, right? So I feel like that's a fair guess. So let's start writing that. We go output dot push, and we're going to call our callback. And okay, so all right, so we got a little hung up here, right? Because we got to pass something into our callback. We have to pass an element. What makes sense? This, okay, yeah, we're going to need to pass this. This is currently a array, so we're going to need to key into this somehow to get a specific element. What can we pass? What can we key into it with? Great. So we're not saying, well, there's nothing to key into this with up here. So we probably need to create a new index. Awesome. Let's do it. So let's say we're going to give it an index. We don't have an index, so we better make one. So if we're going to be keying into it every call at a different index, we're going to have to increment this index between each call. And we're going to have to tell each call what index to call it with, right? So that sounds like another argument. So we go IDX. What seems like a good default for IDX? I'm hearing 0 and this dot length. So if we started at this dot length, we would end up with the length of the whole array. And then I guess we'd be decrementing, but our array would be going in the reverse order. So I think 0 is going to take the cake on this one, right? So we go, oh my gosh, this screen is just getting crazy. Don't. Okay. All right. So now we've got. Okay. So this is looking pretty good, right? We're checking, is our output ready to be returned? No. Then we're going to call back at this dot index, which we're starting at 0. We're pushing it in output. Sounds good. What else needs to happen to index? What do we talk about? Janelle, louder. Plus plus. That's what she says. All right, so let's do IDX plus plus. Cool. What's next? Somebody throw up their hand. Renat?
Return this.
So she says, return this, got my map, and then I'm assuming what's coming out next is pass in the stuff. Yeah, so she's saying callback. I'm going to pass in our output as well because I don't want the next call to create its new empty output. I want our current output to continue on. You're not?
So I did if output is undefined, then let output equal empty array. That's something that will work. Or is it not gonna?
That could work for sure. But so she says that on her that's in your base like at the top of your program, right?
Yeah.
So she's saying at the top of her program, she's got something that says like if output is equal to undefined, then output is an empty array. Yeah, that's totally cool. But as soon as we've created one output, we want to continue to pass that into the recursive call so we can keep building that same array. And then what's our last thing? Our IDX, excellent. Yeah, that's just, yeah, it's definitely a function. Awesome. And so let's try it out. Let's do array, we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. R dot mymap element, and we'll say element times 2. Let's run it. We get it. It looks a little funny because of the sizing, but perfect. It totally works. Final check that we should also see is make sure we didn't mutate anything. So let's console log here our array at the end of it all. Still good. All's well in the world. Thanks to now. Morteza.
Push IDX plus inside our return.
Excellent question. So for those of you who did not hear that question, Morteza says, hey, can we put IDX++ inside of the return? The answer is kind of. We can in different formats. So let's try some stuff out, shall we? Let's get rid of this. We know that works. And let's take this opportunity to learn about this. So we do IDX++, and we're going to get all 2s. So that's not what we want. Let's try a different variant where we do plus equals 1. We get what we want. Let's try the final variant. Plus, oops, not there, of plus plus on that side, and we also get what we want. So what's going on there? Let's talk about that real quick. So if I make a variable down here, say like a, and I say it's equal to 2, I can console log a plus plus, and then I'm going to console log it again down here at a plus plus. No, not at a plus plus, at a. What are we expecting based off of what we just saw? So I'm getting a couple mixes, so let's check it out here. 2 and 3. So we declared a variable at the value of 2. We console logged the plus plus action. It still gave us 2. Then we console logged it after the fact, and it was then changed to 3. Let's try something else. Let's go over here. What are we expecting now? Yeah, 3, 3. Johnny.
How come like sign sign?
I'm not totally sure of like why it was set up that way. I only know that it is. It just doesn't like, it doesn't evaluate. I think it must be like an order of evaluation. I don't totally know like why. That would be a great bonus assignment to find out and let us all know. That'd be awesome. Any other questions on map? Not as bad as we thought, right? We just got to remember that when we get a recursive problem, we have to remember not to freak out, right? We got to remember, like, we can do this, and let's slowly build this. Let's not put every piece together at once, but we can actually start walking through it and building it this base case here was really like, this was the whole foundation, right? As soon as we had this base case, we went like, all right, well, we need to have this output. We have to start adding things into this output to get to that base case. We know what map does, so we know we have to pass something into our callback. So then this was the next step, which really wasn't necessarily too large of a step yet, because we're like, well, we have to pass something in. And so if we have this, we can make this step. Then we have this, which is just like the end of so many recursive problems. Crispina.
Can you speak to how we know what to make an argument in the recursive, like on the top of the line, and what we should put inside of the function? Like I don't know when to like do that.
Great question. So Crispina is saying, how do we know what to pass into the function, and versus like, how do we know what arguments to make inside the function? Is that more or less? Okay. So the rule of thumb for me is I'm passing in whatever is going to be changing per each call. So if I want something to happen the exact same way every time the function is called, no matter where we are in the call stack, I can declare it inside. But if I want to have this change of variable, like I need IDX to change, I need output to change. So I have to pass those in, because if I declare them inside, I'm just starting from scratch over and over again. Is that clear a little? Okay. Any other outstanding questions? All right, cool. Set a break, be back in at 11, and we will learn Dom. For those of you watching at home, skip ahead 5 minutes.
That's actually really cool. Yeah, it's like we should definitely do it. Like once we like have our skills built up, it's like actually it was like nine people presented lab companies. Some people were like straight up after the presentation, they were like, yo, I need developers, data scientists, data stack, talk to me.
Yeah.
And then
Did you like meet anybody or?
yeah. I didn't get to meet the founders, but I met a UX UI person who's like really cool. It's called Squad. It's basically like a meetup. So the founder team was super awesome. She's like what Pursuit is trying to do to tech. She is that. Cool from, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely want to go. So I log to the next one because I want to do UX UI. So you get to like meet people early. Yeah. The next time that's probably definitely. They don't call that now. I forgot the name of it, but it's like yeah. Let's see. Yeah, usually I was reading about like what we creates the purpose of them and stuff. It's just like how you saw they presented stuff and like, yo, I need this, I need that. It's the best way to get known. Culturally, it's the founders. She might be because she got
I didn't start noticing how I read the review.
so, oh, yes. Instagram has
Channing was a power networker.
yeah.
Reeling them in. CEOs.
That's what I got. That shit.
Hooking
Knock
them,
me out more.
hooking them, luring them in.
Instagram has something else to your daily average time you spend on Instagram. Yeah. Per day. Friday, I spent 3 hours and 22 minutes. Oh, that's like 3 hours.
Thank you.
I got in like, there was a sale. And it really helps because like, the person is good, right? You can also like change the
Stretch my leg.
and you also like,
Minute left. I'm always tempted to make sure I don't get to this.
To a dog. A good bird.
Yeah, so important is
Instead of doing
Hello.
Oh, yeah.
I still got It's very good. I mean, you know, like that. Channel the
And clap once if you can hear my voice. Clap twice if you can hear my voice. Awesome. Welcome back, all you viewers at home, all you cool cats. You're listening to Pursuit Radio. And anyway, let's get going. Sorry that was 3 minutes longer than I told you to skip ahead. I don't think anyone's watching it because you guys are all here. But if you are watching it on the train, I hope your trip is going well. All right. So let's talk about the DOM. Dum, 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 right? So the DOM stands for what? Trey, acronym man, let's hear it. Document Object Model. Thank you very much, Trey. Yeah, give it up. Someone's reading ahead. That's what I'm talking about. All right, and we're back. Okay, so the Document Object Model, what is that? What does that mean? So it's a programming interface for HTML, for HTML documents, right? And it represents those the document as nodes. And what's that mean? Well, there's a great visual here that I'm going to drag so you guys can see it, which is like this idea of a tree, kind of a family tree, and each person in the family tree is called a node, which we'll get more into like later down the line. You don't really need to know that too much right now. Although if you're asked like, what is on the browser? What's the HTML document? It's nodes. It's a node tree. Okay, that's an interview question, and that's the interview answer. All right. So we can visualize this DOM tree by we have this. Like the document, right? Because when we go to our HTML, let's take a look. Right, it starts off with this document. And then we have HTML. And so the HTML here, the document's kind of like the whole thing. The HTML is the root element. So this is like it all goes back to that one person that just had so many children, right? And their kids had so many. It's like the Adam and Eve of an HTML document. And so we can see its direct children, right? It's got the head, it's got its body, and the head had a title. The title has some text. That's kind of an object attribute because it is also like node objects. They have different information. Our body's got, an H1 tag, it's got an A tag, it might have more stuff as well, right? And our A tag, it's got this href attribute, this text attribute. Our H1 has a text attribute. And so this is kind of like this tree. Any questions on this concept of HTML lineage? No? All right, cool. So we can see that things are connecting, and we'll come back to this picture again when we talk about events and event bubbling. Yeah, awesome.
The DOM is the interface. Are we looking at a DOM right now? I don't understand that part of it.
Are we looking at a DOM right now? Yes. So the DOM is what we are seeing through our browser window. So like us as a human being, we sit at the table, computer. I eat a lot. We sit at a computer and we look at our browser, right? We can have a Firefox browser. We can have all those. And that's like kind of a window on the screen. And then in that window is this document. And the document is comprised of all of these little HTML nodes. And they're being painted in a specific way with CSS. And that's what we see. And that's what we interact with. So when we go, that's why when we go to sites like the New York Times, and we do inspect, we get to see, okay, for those of you who weren't paying attention, we get to see its elements. We go, okay, we got its body. Let's make this bigger. Oh boy. Oh boy. I think I went a little too big there. Okay, we can see inside of a body, we get to see these divs. This is an HTML node, right? This is this HTML object. This is this element that exists within this DOM node tree. And this div's got a little script child. Well, this is a piece of JavaScript, but we can see that this div has a div, and this div has a div, and it's just this whole. We're just seeing this whole family. It's like every time you go to a website, you see this entire family, the family history. Although when we navigate around, you might see different, cousins and whatnot.
So what's the actual purpose of mirroring
Can you please repeat the question? The door has a great squeak.
So I'm about the breakdown of how it's structured here. You're already doing that on the HTML page. What's the application of Dom1? Is it just for scalability for the browser?
Yeah, so, well, because we don't really like we wouldn't really like going to websites and seeing this. Right, this is a document object here. This is our HTML that the computer then takes and interprets to something like this, which is way more readable for us humans.
So it's just like an intermediary step.
Yeah, so people write like what they want to show up on the screen, and they have to write it in HTML, that hypertext markup language that the computer then parses, and it says, all right, I'm taking all of these elements, I'm going to paint them with all the CSS, and I'm also going to grab JavaScript, which we're going to learn about today, and then I'm going to set this beautiful website up for you to experience it in a way that you can handle it. The computer's doing all the legwork there. Renat?
Can you explain again what is a node?
What is a node? It's a hard definition for me. We're gonna go more into that, but a node is like these pieces of information on kind of on a tree. Like there's a lot of we will eventually get into trees, and we'll do binary search trees, and trees are set up differently, and they have this root, and the node is might have a specific value and its child or parent, and it creates this list, and it allows you to traverse the tree with different programming things.
Basically an object.
Yeah, it's like an object inside of the thing that we can look at, check its attributes, and check its children and its parents, depending on the direction and depending on the type of tree / node. We will get more into nodes and trees, I promise, and you'll be really excited about them. Okay, so let's keep flying through. I want to grab this again. Get that off the screen. And so currently we've been building all these static HTML sites, right? I mean, we get a little changes with a hover effect or a focus effect, but we're not really doing anything yet. We know that the real Facebook login page has something else going on, because we were clicking our login, typing things in, nothing was really happening, right? I mean, it was just refreshing in the URL, and it's not really what, surely Facebook isn't just doing this, right? So what Facebook is doing is something called JavaScript. Well, they're in React and whatever, but the point is that JavaScript is this engine behind the scenes here that's controlling all of this power and movement. And so how do we get JavaScript into a file? It's not too bad. We write a script tag, and we can do that Script tags typically go in the head, although note when we go to parse our HTML, it will, when it hits a script tag, it then goes into the script tag. So if we refer to elements on the page that appear later, it will like throw an error because that element hasn't been painted on the page yet. We'll see that more later, and we can bypass that now by putting our script tags at the bottom of the body after everything's already been created. And we'll eventually be able to do like events, and you can also add async. I encourage you to read up more on that later. But for now, let's write our first script tag. And you write the word script, you hit tab, you get this type, text, JavaScript. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So what's this really mean for us, right? Well, we can now write JavaScript. That sounds kind of interesting. Let's go back to our old console log friend here, and we can say JavaScript lives again, right? Welcome back. And we can go over to our page. Let's open this up here. And we did console.log, right? So when I refresh, it shows up in the console. We are back to JavaScript. Yeah. Woo! This is exciting times. Oh man, am I excited to be alive. Okay. So, yeah, question.
You're saying that because it's .html, it could JavaScript correctly, and then we put the script back to kind of like so that it can start reading JavaScript.
So this is telling us that we're doing this type of JavaScript. So it knows to parse everything inside of there as if it's JavaScript. So that's pretty cool. So if I write a bunch of JavaScript, I probably don't want to write it in this HTML file, right? That seems like a lot. So we can do something similar to what we did in our CSS world, which we can make a file called text.js, or you can call it whatever you want, but you know, follow along and do something, call it something. Yeah, follow along, definitely. And for those of you on the train, just wait a minute. Give me a look when you have created your file. Oh, a thumbs up, that works too. Give me a really nasty look when you have completed it. Thank you, Takia. Okay, thank you very much, Janelle. Some of you guys have given me this look before. All right, because I might not have caught all the looks. Thumbs up if we're ready to move on. All right, I'll give it another minute. Yeah, Davey.
Where are you getting your HTML script?
What do you mean? That is from the previous days. I can throw it up in Slack if you want it. Control copy, go over to Slack, code snips. It's just there. We're probably not going to really be doing too much with all of it, but so there's not like big pressure if you're not interested in that. This is my CSS. Also throwing it in for those of you who want the same thing on the screen, Mateo.
Is there a workable place to put that script tag, like below the title or
I don't know about the specific positioning inside of the head. That might be worth a look up. Reed's posting some cool JavaScript stuff in Slack about the JavaScript is the only language that can do this. It's the only one that browsers can understand. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's important that some of these things are magic. Yo, Wizard Harry. Yeah, Al. Yes, I definitely can. Great question. Good? Jasmine, is that big enough for you? Okay. Neileen, more importantly? Okay. Great. Thank you. All right, we don't need that today. Well, you can't. I mean, if you just want it to look like this, we're just going to be working with like JavaScript stuff, so you don't have to worry. It's good coffee. Nope, we're going to connect it. Don't worry. I'm just making sure everybody is set up to follow along. Are we good? Yeah, Mateo? Yeah, it is in code snippets, but I can definitely still show you. All right, well, we just had to create one file, so I think we should probably move on. Okay, so let's take our code from that script from before, go over to our JavaScript file, post that, save it, and now let's see if we can hook up these two things together. So how am I going to do that? I got to remember myself. See if I wrote it down anywhere. I think you just do source or something. Hang on. My notes all left me. Yeah, okay. So instead of this, I'm going to add a source tag here, src, and I'm going to give it its relative path. So I can look, I'm in test.html. I got to go to a sibling one for me. That's how I set it up. Maybe you put it in the JavaScript folder. So I'm going to go /Gesundheit, and I'm going to say test.js. And because I don't really want my script tag on 2 lines, I'm not going to put anything inside of it. So I'm just going to clean that up. Save it. Let's see if it worked. Go to your website, refresh. JavaScript lives again. It must be, we're live, right? Yes, I can. The JS file only says console log. JavaScript lives again.
Over why we put that console log on the JS?
Yeah, so Crispina says, why do we put that console log in the JS file? Just so I could quickly see if I've linked them up correctly by seeing this message here in the console. This isn't something you'll like. It's not important to the code. It's just showing that this is running JavaScript now. So it's that same script tag, just this time it has src inside, and then we've assigned that to the relative path. Yeah, Crispina?
What are you looking at to see the JavaScript again coming up?
This is in the console. So pretty much from now on, you're going to want your Chrome Developer Tools open. If you call me over asking a question about something not working and your Chrome Developer Tools aren't open, the first thing I'll say is, I'm going to say, what's the first thing I'm going to say? And then you'll say, my Chrome Developer Tools should be open. I'll say, yes. This is an invaluable tool. Yeah? So, yeah, okay. So there's literally nothing in the JS file except for the words console log. Just printing it out to that console in the browser, which we can see from the Chrome Developer Tools. Awesome. All right, are we ready?
That div thing, was messing it up. Like I couldn't see if I deleted that div thing. And now I only have that, and now it's working.
You had a div inside of our script and our. So we can't put HTML inside of our JavaScript file, like as if it was HTML. That's a great bug to discover. So everybody should definitely be aware of that. We're only going to be writing JavaScript inside of the JavaScript file. If we're writing CSS, HTML, we're going to get errors.
You can't see their console log.
Oh, great. This one. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to keep going. I don't want us all to wait. Side chat or clap once if you can hear my voice. All right. So we talked a little bit about the window object, right? Do we remember what the window is? Yeah. Crispina says the browser. It is. Perfect. So that's like the window is encompassing the whole document. Okay, cool stretch. Right, and the window has many properties of its own, such as like inner width, where it can check the width. It can check its height, inner height. It can check its local storage. And then it also has a couple methods like alert and prompt, which we're going to work with today in our introduction here. So let's try this out together. Let's do window.alert. And we'll say, you've been alerted. Or, yeah, I'm going to throw warning to make it look more realistic. Warning. Okay. So we save. If we go back to here, we'll see the ad we hate. Warning, you've been alerted. Right? So this isn't in the console anymore. This is kind of part of the document, but it's really actually part of the window. And it freezes up everything. We don't even get to see. This is a synchronous thing, right? We've talked a little bit about asynchronous and a little bit about synchronous. And if you'll see, my browser hasn't painted any of the HTML yet because it hit the JavaScript, and this is waiting for me to hit OK. And while it's waiting, it's just waiting. So once I hit OK, it will print the rest of our HTML that we want to see. But for now, it just does that. So every time I refresh, warning. Hey.
Refresh it.
Then it must be not written right. Window alert.
Basic, like that.
Yeah, looks
Window.
so maybe sync it up. We'll be able to get the other console message before. When we were doing
Yeah, that's your vision setting, definitely. You would alert.
is something wrong with your computer? Give us your credit card number. Test it.
Sorry, let's see if that works. Syntax error. Just a syntax error. JavaScript. Yeah, Chris? Oh, you have this inside. Yeah. Yeah, we can't. We don't necessarily.
Because apparently you managed to get.
Okay, are we? Were we all able to get an alert? Awesome. Yeah, these are. So these aren't. I mean, these are fun for us. Definitely not fun for a user. Okay, clap your hands if you can hear my voice. Clap your hands 3 times if you can hear my voice. All right, awesome. So yeah, those are kind of fun. Let's see what else we can learn. Let's do a prompt tag. So instead of alert, let's try prompt. And we can do the same thing. So we're going to say window.prompt. And this is going to ask something of our user here. It's going to say like favorite animal, right? And I can save that. I can go back over here. I can refresh. And it wants me to say something. It wants me to say, hey, what's your favorite animal? So I'll say monkey. And continue.
So can the prompt actually be used as like a passwording tool, like use everybody password?
I guess it could be, but it would be a set password for the website, not for the individual, I guess. Or not?
So prompt and window, what category are they there? Object, is it method?
So those are alert and prompt is a method on the window object.
Oh, so window is an object.
Yeah, so window is its object and it holds the document, and then the document holds all that HTML.
Okay, I'm just like
Yeah, go
to
for
get
it.
the definitions together. Not window is an object, prompt and alert is methods on the object. So console log, like console is also an object.
What is console? I don't know. Console is probably some kind of function. It might be a class, but no problem. Alex?
So when we use window prompt, and they type in something, and where did that something go?
Yeah, great question. Awesome. That moves us to the next thing. So Alex says, hey, I typed in my prompt. I said my favorite animal, and then you just kind of ignored me. If you're not gonna listen to my answer, why are you even asking me a question? You know, we've all been on those dates. And so, hey, well, we can save this to a variable, right? We can save their answer here. We can say let input for this. And I'm going to say, let's console log something like, let's do an alert. Actually, why not, right? Let's do the next step, and we'll go window, and we'll do dot alert. Go. Wow. I also like plus input. Right? That's a pretty good response. I'm a married man. So here we go. Let's see what happened. Refresh. Favorite animal. Frog. Well, I also like frog. We're kind of having a good time here now. This is getting pretty good. I wish I could ask you some questions. Yes.
Any reason why you can bypass using window?
Why I can't bypass using window? What do you mean by that? Sorry.
I can think if you don't use window, it looks the same.
If I don't use window,
Alert.
well, because of the way functions are invoked, right? We have three types of function invocation. We have constructor style, function style, and method style. So .prompt is a method style invocation. The same reason we can't just do for each. It needs this in the prototype. You would be invoking a function style. Let's say, I don't think it would work unless they've built it in for us to work just in case, and they might have. Let's see. Yeah, I guess it still works. Okay. Cool. I guess it automatically sticks it in. It is a method call on the window. I guess it automatically knows that that's what it's doing. That's a great question, Davey. Learn something new. Johnny.
Besides window, what else?
I don't know with 100% confidence. You don't really want to use prompt typically, right? It's pretty annoying for the user because it's synchronous and stuff. But it's kind of just, we're just beginning to interact with what we see in the browser and JavaScript. That's the whole point. Will you ever use alert and prompt in real life? Probably not unless you get hired to make like really obnoxious ads or something. And a website is like, yeah, you can do that ad on our site. It's just to understand that there's a connection here. And so that's pretty cool. I guess we don't need the word window. That's pretty exciting. Awesome. So let's do a challenge here. Let's give yourself 5 minutes here, and to use window prompt to ask the user to enter a number, and then use alert to display that number times 2. Okay, but if the input cannot be converted to a real number, use alert to display, please enter a number next time. Yeah, it's it's actually in the GitHub here. This is the question. Yeah. Good. And feel free to work with each other. You don't have to be on an island alone. We are doing this one.
Also link the JavaScript to your HTML. The magic words. That's it. Yeah, it's hard. Slash.
Oh, you can't have isn't. You can't have that in text. Things you're making
Yeah, something unexpected. So they have that.
Come on and take it back. All right. Clap your hands if you can hear my voice. Very, very cool. How did this go? How did we do? Yeah, okay. Some got okay. Most of us just have decided not to answer. I will wait. How did we do? Thank you, Rain. Hey, back right corner. How'd we do? Seems like we're still working on it. Don't need to anymore. We can talk about it. All right. So let's see a way that we could do this. Okay, so we know how we're gonna, can someone tell me how we're gonna start? Yeah, Nikki, you wanna raise your hand?
Oh.
Nikki, that way it keeps everyone else. Okay. Windows.prompt. Enter a number. Cool. All right, can someone tell me the next step? So we're going to leave it at Nuber. Jonathan.
I guess we can write a function.
Okay. What's that function going to do?
So I tried it, so it didn't work. That's let's try it.
Okay. Let's try something that someone was able to get to work. I love that idea, though. We might be able to do that. Neeleen? Yeah, we can just do. Wait, this, hang on, it's hard to hear. This did work or did not work? It did? Okay, what is it? If not number. Input. Oh, okay. So that little symbol there is modulo, like that. Oh, okay. Got an extra bracket there. And then what? Alert. Please enter number next time. Input times 2. Great. Let's give it a shot. Oh, I gotta get rid of this. Okay, here we go. Enter a number. What do we want to enter?
Q.
I heard S first. Please enter a number next time. All right. Do it again. What's an Uber? What's a good Uber we want to enter? 5. I heard 5 first. Some people are fast on this game. Oh, it didn't work. Interesting. Interesting. Time to debug. All right. Let's do console log input modulo 1. And see what happens. Enter a Uber, let's put 3. It says true. I used modulo because Neeleen told me to. And it's saying it's true. And so seems like we should have gone inside of this one here. So maybe we don't want this sign, right? Or let's put that sign back in. I think these might need to get switched here. Maybe? What do we? This is getting tricky. This is getting significantly harder than I thought it was going to be. All right, let's try this. Okay, we try a number. We get 8. Okay. Let's try again with a non-number. I remember somebody yelled Q. This one's for you. And then, oh, we got not a number this time. Ah. So it's still not working. Trey.
Go back to,
I think we're definitely going to have to.
actually, no.
Yeah, odd or even, that's not gonna give us a problem here. But I like the deduction. Max. I don't know. Let's try it. Okay, so we say if type of input equal number. Does this work for you? Okay. So this is kind of fun. We're debugging people's work. Enter a number. Nope. Next, Davey.
We need to convert it to a number, like the input, the line before.
Okay.
Before line 2, yeah.
Why don't we console log type of input?
Sure. Whoa. Not what I wanted. Log type of input. Let's see what happens. Dun, 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 da, 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 do, do. Yeah, for those of you who have looked ahead with the quicker refresh, relax. We got our 2. It's a string. Oh, the humanity. All right. Let's try Davey's idea.
Yeah, so just sign input equals plus.
So input equals plus input.
Yeah.
Input equals, like, you're doing this, you mean?
Yeah.
Interesting. Why is that going to work? Why will it work? Yeah. Let's.
It just changes its string.
All right. Let's debate this at lunch. Just try it here. We got it. F. Oh no, so that still doesn't work. Ah! Okay, I'm gonna start taking the reins a little bit. Okay, so we're getting 2 situations, right? We're getting one where it's a number and one where it's not a number. And I'm gonna check something here in console log, in our console. If I can highlight this here, and I go type of NaN. What's the type of NaN? What's going on? Oh, it's because of this thing. Okay. It's a number. So type of NaN is a number. Ah! What? So NaN, which is not a number, is the type of a number. Perfect. Makes sense. So how can we test if something is not a number? Do we remember that lesson? Not yet. Okay. Well, there's a couple ways. We can go, I think it's like, is NaN. We can pass in NaN. Oh, true or false. What we can also do, if we remember not a number, is the only element that doesn't equal itself. So we can also do NaN not equal to NaN. True. All right. Okay, so now that with this newfound knowledge where we were getting a situation where we had a number or we had NaN, let's play again. What can we try? Trey.
I would say,
If input, what is it? Okay, so we know at this point input equal either is a number or it's not a number. So none of those are going to hit true. None of those are true. Johnny?
If bang is NaN.
Okay, so he says if bang is NaN input. Is that what you're saying? All right. Got a pretty good feeling about this one. Let's enter a number. Let's do 5. Okay. Who's sweating for this next one? I am. Okay, Corey. Let's do it. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we've done it. So we can definitely go back to this. There's also a solution in the GitHub README. That's sexy little one-liner. All right, let's keep going. Right, we got to get to. Well, we're kind of already in the meat of it here. All right, so there's a couple more things we're going to learn, and that's going to be called. So we've been grabbing elements with our CSS, right? We've been selecting elements with our CSS and styling them certain ways. Do we remember doing this over the last few days? Yes! Come on, guys. We only got an hour to lunch. We can definitely wake up. I'm awake. Let's do it. All right? Okay, so we can select elements with JavaScript as well. So that's going to be very exciting. And the other hot word we're going to learn about today is debugger. That's meet your new best friend. And let's check it out. Okay, so we go over here. Let's get rid of all of this garbage. Yoink. And let's first give an element on our page some kind of ID. So how about, this is my first web page. How exciting, isn't it? So I'm going to give this div here an ID. I'm going to say ID, and I'm going to say welcome. Maybe not the greatest ID name, but it's going to work for our purposes today, okay? Mateo.
You have a
Yeah. Where did that come from? Thanks. Everything's still cool over here? Everything's cool. What? Max. Oh, okay. Good. Keeping me sharp. I love it. I'm so eager for questions. I call on people who scratch and yawn. All right, so please don't hesitate to ask a question. I may accidentally call on you with any hand movement anyway. Janelle. Okay. Testing me. Renat, was that just a grab of a bag or you have a question? Okay. Max, it's going to be hard to ask that question with a water bottle to your mouth. Okay. So we've added an ID here to our div. Let's grab this. Let's first make a small change. We'll do it right. We'll do that after. Okay. So how do we grab it? This is on the document, right? This element is going to be in the document, this div. So I'm going to say it. Document dot get element by ID. Am I spelling that all right? Spelling is pretty dreadful. Yeah, it's good. And then we're going to say which ID element we want. So I called it welcome. So I'm going to go welcome. And I'm going to add our new best friend, the debugger. And debugger is this cool word that you can just throw in anywhere in your JavaScript on its own line, and it stops running the rest of your JavaScript. So I'm just going to do a quick little proof of that by console logging after debugger. And who's ready? Who's excited? Who's pumped? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This is like my favorite, one of my favorite things in JavaScript. So I really want you all to be super stoked. All right, let's clear this console because let's make way for better things. I did not want to clear. Okay, and we're gonna refresh, and we've hit the debugger. See, it moves over in our console to the source. And now we're inside of this debugger, right? If we look at our console, it never printed that thing, but we can check things inside of our console. We can say like document, see like that's what our document is. We could call things. It's going to be more effective in a second, but let's pretend we didn't really we're not that curious at the moment. And so I just can then hit this blue little arrow here, skips us ahead and runs to the next debugger, or if there isn't one, it runs to the end. And now we hit that after debugger in our console log. So here's the issue. And actually, I can better demonstrate it here. I'm going to give this a variable name, document.getElementById, welcome, and I'm going to say let welcome equal that. So it's going to grab that HTML element, and then it's going to hit the debugger, and then we're going to hit console log. Okay? We're going to go, yeah, we're not?
So, how does it know? What if I have a bunch of store them?
Awesome question. So Renat said, what if I have a bunch of IDs that are welcome? And I would say that first off, you can't. IDs are unique to their element. You might be thinking of classes, which we do have a different selector for those. If you do put the same ID on multiple elements, because JavaScript really, really wants things to work in your browser, it would still paint it everything, but it would then just return the first one with that ID. Okay, so let's check this out. I'm going to refresh. We hit our debugger, and I'm going to look at welcome in our console to see what's going on with our welcome. And we see welcome is nil. That's not what we want, right? Because we know that welcome is actually that div with the ID welcome. Can anybody tell me why we're getting welcome as nil? Anyone want to guess? Johnny? There's nothing inside the div. Well, there is something inside the div, but that's a good guess. Crispina? Perfect. So Crispina says, hey, I mean, just look at the page. We don't have anything on there, right? None of our elements have rendered. So perhaps we're grabbing this element on the page that hasn't been painted onto the page yet. And I would say that's 100% correct. And this is what we talked about when it hits JavaScript in our HTML. It hits this script tag, and it goes and runs this before any of the rest. So a quick fix for this for now is we're going to move this script tag. Let's take it, let's cut it, and let's just move it all the way to the bottom of our body. Just kind of a cheap fix. We'll learn better ways later, like different days. But for now, everything's going to get painted, and then it's going to hit our JavaScript. Do we understand that? Yeah? I'll repeat it again. When our browser goes to interpret the script tags JavaScript, it does the whole file. So if inside of that file, we're referring to elements in the HTML that the browser hasn't had a chance to paint into the document yet, like that we can see, it's going to have a bad time. It's going to say there's nothing there. You grab nil. So if we put it at the bottom, we're going to paint all of these elements on the window, and then we're going to run our JavaScript, and now we're going to be able to see something fun. Okay? So we've moved it to the bottom. I still got this console log. I still got that debugger. I'm going to go back. I might still be stuck in the debugger. I'm going to continue out of my debugger, and now I'm going to refresh. And we can see that things are already painted, right? Because it's usually instantaneous. We've got things here. We're in this debugger. It's highlighted. Hey, we're at this debugger. I can go to the console. This is getting exciting. And we get to type in welcome. We can check what welcome is. And we see it's this div. Crispina.
Why, when you're just typing welcome, it's like a search engine? Why?
The console automatically shows you options of things you can type in. Just like if I went document dot and it's showing me all of these things I can call in the document. There's a lot. You don't need to know all of them yet. Mateo.
Can you refresh the page again? Raise the console up. Just a little bit, sorry.
Move it down.
Yeah, right there, perfect. And refresh it.
Well, we're inside of our debugger, but yeah.
Perfect. And then you see at the scope script, it shows it right there. Yeah, right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but it doesn't show us it shows us all these attributes and stuff. But I want to see this stuff. Welcome, and we can just see this is what our HTML literally looks like, right? And we can only see this because we're in the debugger, right? We see that the console log saying I'm after the debugger has not printed because our debugger has frozen the screen. So this is totally essential when debugging your JavaScript code, because you can literally stop the code anywhere in a program and take a look. What are these variables and things? Super valuable. Okay, so what's some things we can check out? That's a great question. What are things that I want you to check out now? So let's check out inner HTML. So I can do welcome dot inner HTML. I get to see, okay, so this is what's inside of that. It looks like this kind of big string, but we can see there's things there, right? I could do welcome dot inner text. And I get to see, oh, so this is all the text that's inside of what I'm capturing, inside of that div element. Let's see what else we can use. We can check its class list. Let's see if this gives us any. I know we don't have a class. Let's see, class list. Just a DOM token list. We can assign it a class, but we'll do that later. And so we can also change its inner HTML. So right now it says this is my first web page. What if I say I don't really want that, right? I want it to say something else. I want it to say inner HTML, and I say I want it to say, okay, I want there to be an H1 tag, and I want it to say I am in control now. And I H1 here, close it, and then I'm going to enter it. And I have a syntax error. Beautiful. Okay, let's try it again. I think I forgot to close my parentheses. Boom, we just made a change, right? So try this yourself. Yeah, Johnny. No, but if I made this inside of the JavaScript file, it stays. Yep. Yep. We're not? Okay. So this is kind of cool. I mean, we're obviously not going to be changing our website like only in the debugger, but if I wanted to check something and see how it might look, and then I could be like, all right, I actually want to take whatever in there, copy that. For now, I'm going to pretend I'm done with this, and I'm going to continue out of our debugger. Now we'll see at the console it says, after debugger. And if I go back to our JavaScript file and I just go like, all right, I'm just going to change the inner HTML here. There's no debugger anymore, but I can go back, and now when I refresh, you know, it's changing. It's just changing it super fast, so we don't get to see it. But we're making an HTML change with JavaScript. Pretty tight. We're not.
But your file is not changed. Just how it.
Yeah, well, the change is happening right here. Once the JavaScript runs.
Oh, so the welcome get like a different value. Okay.
I'm just grabbing the welcome and immediately changing the value, and it's just happening so fast we don't get to see the change. Unless I did like a debugger. Here, if I throw a debugger here, we'll see more. So if I throw a debugger in between these lines, I can refresh, and it says, see, so now we're before, and then as soon as I hit continue, we'll hit that next line of code, and we'll see that it was that before we changed it.
Just asked about,
I'm sorry, whatever what?
what she was bringing up about how your file's not changing. File's not changing. It's still leaving out.
So we're okay. So Crispina's saying, I don't know what's going on here. How is this happening? Essentially. And so how is this happening? Well, we've got our HTML. It gets painted to the screen, right? The computer interprets it and it shows us everything. And then at the very bottom of our body tag there, we have that script tag that says, hey, run this JavaScript, right? So inside of our JavaScript file, we're doing two things. We're grabbing the element by the ID that we want. We know that that's in our HTML file because we wrote it. We wrote an ID there called welcome. So we're saying grab that div with the ID of welcome. And then on line 3, we're saying change the inner HTML of that div to an H1 that says I'm in control now.
Did that happen on the HTML?
The HTML file won't change. It's how it changes on the computer. I mean, if I go over here and I inspect our page, it shows just this div with welcome, and it's now just got the H1. It doesn't have that anymore. We're not changing our literal file. The file gets interpreted, and then it's done. We no longer.
The change is happening anyway
because it hits the JavaScript. As soon as that JavaScript happens, it repaints the HTML there. It's a little bit like magic, though. Mateo.
Can you keep this open at the debugger back and show the different columns set up?
Sure. So I've got the debugger in here, and I hit refresh. We get hit on the debugger. I can look at the elements on the page. I can also visually see it here. And this is our welcome tag. We've got, why did it already do that? Oh yeah, it says this is my first web page. It's got these P's. It says how exciting, right? And now if I continue through the debugger, that piece of JavaScript that changes the inner of that HTML gets to run and goes, boom, it's ran it, and now this has changed. And when we look at our elements, the change is reflected. Leo.
Where are they now?
They're gone. Yep, we got rid of them. We said Because before, welcome's inner HTML had all that in there, but we just reassigned the value of that inner HTML to a new H1. Sorry?
It's not just the
It replaced it with an H1 tag. So it's just like when we have any variables, and we have an object or something, right? When we say, or we could just have a string, a variable called string, and it says Corey. And the moment we say string equals read, Corey's gone. It's just that string. That value is now read. So it's the same thing. So it used to have an inner HTML value with how exciting and all that. And we said, not anymore. We've reassigned your inside value to be that H1. And then the screen reflects that change. It's kind of wild. I highly encourage you to play around with it. Renat?
So does the browser save a temporary file that changes and then it reads from it? Because I just don't understand where is it storing at H1. What's going on?
Not sure how to best answer your question. I think the best way I can answer it is, like, it's not, I don't think it's necessarily storing, it's just reprinting. Once that JavaScript happens, it's grabbing that specific element, it's changing it, that part gets repainted, and then that's just it. It just sees it. It doesn't need to have like a working memory of what our actual file says.
But like, I'm asking because right now our HTML file is changed and visibly have H1 instead of the old file.
So our HTML file hasn't changed. Our HTML file was what we sent to initially be interpreted. What we're seeing here isn't really our file. What we're seeing here is a representation of the document that we're visually seeing on the browser.
Is that the DOM?
This is the DOM.
So we're seeing the DOM.
Yes. So we made a change to the DOM, and that's being reflected here, but our file is already, it's done. It's been interpreted. That's a great question. Eileen?
So what could we do that just doesn't by itself, like it doesn't by itself and figure out something. So what is the debugger to look at actually
Between what? Do different than what?
I was comparing it with comments that I was and I saw that it was full of stuff. I still didn't get from the debugger that is
The debugger goes on its own line, and it stops the code. So as soon as it hits this debugger, none of this runs until I've continued. So I have an opportunity to check out everything that's happened before.
So I put the debugger and then what after the other and see if something wrong with.
Yeah, I can put multiple debuggers in and see exactly where things stop. Now, remember, the debugger's only going to hit if your developer tools are open. And also, when you're done with it, always make sure to delete your debugger, because the worst thing in the world for some, like if someone's trying to like look at your website to see if they want to give you a job, and they open your console to make sure it's clean, and it starts hitting the debugger, they're going to go, oh, this person's a little sloppy. Crispina.
So the reason why I was confusing is because I was trying to do like some sort of order of operations of how the browser is interpreting the HTML. So it goes to the HTML file, goes top down, sees the script at the bottom, says, hey, we've got a JS file, and then goes to the JS file and interprets that top down. And it's saying, oh, we have like a change here, so let's do that. Let's like repeat it, and then like all that is happening like fast. So
Exactly. That's exactly what's happening. So Crispina's saying it's going through the HTML from top to bottom. As soon as it hits that script tag, it goes over to our JavaScript file and reads that top to bottom. It's seeing there's a change. It it's then making that change. What she's saying, it's unbelievable because it's happening that fast. I threw that last part in a little bit. She didn't say it, but it is unbelievable. It's pretty exciting. This is just the beginning, but this is as far as we're going today. We're going to be able to do a lot more with this kind of stuff because right now it seems like, well, why don't we just put that in the original HTML? Well, because eventually we're going to want to, like, I don't know, yesterday when we were doing our Facebook and we had our dates going from 1903 to 2004 or whatever, I don't know the numbers. If some of you were trying to do that with an option tag one at a time, you probably were having a bit of a bad day. But with JavaScript, right, we could do a little for loop from 1903 to 2004. And with each number, we can create an option tag and stick it in there. So it happens like that. And you only have to write it for a minute. I'm not going to do that today because we're not going to learn that part yet. We'll learn that tomorrow.
Just understand that when you create a for loop in JavaScript,
Mm-hmm.
print numbers that say 1, 2, 3, but it drop down menu, pushes it to HTML. So it has
Well, I would have to make an HTML element, but when we see that this evaluates JavaScript, so I mean, I can still do like for let equals 0. Well, I should probably say something equals 0, right? And we can do I is less than 100, I plus plus, and this is like real JavaScript. So I'm not going to create HTML elements because I don't want to ruin the fun for tomorrow, but I can show you at console.log I and pretend if we were doing something else with I, like creating an element with that H1 tag, like we did here, but instead of like reassigning, we were appending. You know, we can see, well, we hit our debugger. Let's continue. We look at our console. It did it, you know. So if we were creating an element with each one of those, that'd be pretty fast. That would save your hands a lot of energy. All right. Any other final questions that would be helpful for everyone? Spina?
Would it make it slow?
That loop is just
I mean, would it make it slow to age?
no. I mean, maybe if you did 40 million, but we're going to make it so like you would still, because right now we're still seeing HTML, right? So the user might not even realize it. If we had to do all this JavaScript, it takes 2 seconds, but the user's probably not even able to respond to something so quickly. Our JavaScript's going to beat the user, unless something is like unreal, you know. That's a good question. I like where you're going, but let's not worry too much about that until we're really implementing sites. All right, so there's an assignment, and then after lunch, it's independent work study. I think at the end of the day, we might be presenting some of our Facebook stuff. And all right, if you have any other questions, feel free to call us over and stuff. I love questions. Thank you. All right. For those of you who can't see, this is a standing ovation.